Welcome everyone. This is Cooking with Class at Johnson County Community College, and I'm Emily Fowler with the JCCC Foundation.
And I'm Stacy Tennant, a graduate of the Food and Beverage Program of Spring 2007.
Excellent. And we have a guest chef in our kitchen today. That is Michael Turner. Michael's with the Classic Cup in Kansas City, Missouri.
That's right.
Welcome.
Thank you so very much. Thanks for having me out here, and thanks for tuning in today.
That's
I'm going to do a fun little process today called a master recipe. And what that means is I'm making one recipe of sweet basil pesto. I'm an advocate of sort of cooking in season. And during the summer and late summer, early fall months, basil is in season and it's in abundance. And so what I'm trying to do is grab some of that harvestable product, put it into a sauce that can be kept in the freezer and used over the winter months or used immediately upon preparation. So we'll start with this master recipe. Sweet basil is the pesto is an Italian dish. I'm putting in approximately 2 cups of sweet basil into the bowl of a food processor. I'm going to add a healthy pinch of salt. I like to use kosher salt because I like the shape of it. I like the way that it dissolves into sauces and waters, and I like the fact that it doesn't have anything artificial like a flow agent. So it has a really clean flavor to it. And there are a couple of really good kosher salts out there. I'm putting in a couple of cloves of pre-minced garlic into the sweet basil pesto, and I'm putting in half a cup of olive oil. And I'm using extra virgin olive oil because I like the flavor of extra virgin olive oil. If you don't like the flavor of extra virgin olive oil, don't use it. I'm using it in this format because we're not cooking with it. When I'm cooking with olive oil, I'll use something like a pure olive oil or a virgin olive oil because you lose the floral kind of flavor of the extra virgin when you're cooking with it. So we're just going to do this in a raw sauce. We're going to turn this into a paste. Literally, the meaning of pesto is, it means kind of a paste. The Italians traditionally, the Genovese families would make sweet basil pesto using a mortar and pestle. And it literally comes from the verb pestar, which means to grind into a paste by pounding or grinding. We're looking for this to turn into a rather smooth paste. Let's see what we did.
How are we doing?
We're doing pretty well.
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. It's when you watch those fun guys on the Food Network and you hear those guys say, "Well, I wish I could have smell-o-vision." Right now, you smell this sweet basil.
Absolutely.
It is so wonderful. It's just redolent of the flavors of summer.
And you're making this very simple right now, but you're going to show us how to really do a lot of different things with this.
The concept behind a master recipe is that you make one basic recipe that enables you to go to other different locations with that little recipe. For instance, we're going to take some of this sweet basil pesto that we've just made, and I'm going to add it to a hollandaise sauce. And we're going to put that hollandaise sauce over the top of a tomato benedict by taking a piece of English muffin, toasting the English muffin, slicing a beautiful summer tomato, and putting a poached egg on top of that and drizzling this hollandaise sauce over the top of it. It's such a wonderful twist on the ham benedict tradition, and it's so flavorful with this basil pesto in here.
So you're starting to make the hollandaise right now?
I am.
Egg yolk?
I started with 3 egg yolks, juice of half a lemon, and a pinch of salt. And I'm doing it this way, but you can also do it by putting this egg yolk, lemon juice, salt mixture in the bowl of a food processor and pouring 160 degree or essentially melted hot butter slowly down the tube with the food processor running, and it will create a perfectly beautiful hollandaise that sits stable for quite a while. So what I'm doing sort of essentially is making a sabayon, whipping these egg yolks until they become kind of a fun yellow, and they've increased their volume by a little bit. We use, at the Classic Cup, we try to support as much local and organic agriculture as we can, and all of the eggs we use are from the Campo Lindo farms. They're a wonderful little family of chicken producers, raisers. I don't know, what do you do? What do you do with a chicken? Chicken farmers?
Works for me.
I always think of farming as planting and harvesting kind of stuff, but yeah, chicken farmer.
I guess.
And they have 21 acres, and they allow their chickens to roam on 7-acre batches at a time. And so these birds are outside eating bugs and, and living in the environment and laying eggs happily and freely every day.
Which is good for us.
It is good for us. Happy chicken makes a happy egg, makes a happy Benedict eater. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of butter to this. This is hot.
So now you want to do it really slow, right?
Yes,
Because you can break a hollandaise.
you sure can.
Yeah.
And that means you cook the eggs or something? It goes too
Yeah,
quickly?
you end up basically having scrambled eggs.
Ah,
Because really a hollandaise is a true emulsion sauce, meaning that there's suspended, everything's kind of suspended all in one sauce all together. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking egg yolks, whole butter, eggs. Golly, that doesn't sound all that healthy, but you know, it's not like something you're going to have on a daily basis. It's something that you offer to yourself as a treat. And I think that sometimes people get a little carried away with their treats. And I think that's how we're getting it to be in kind of the situations we are today, where in New York they're making you write all the information about all the ingredients onto the menus, and I mean, it's crazy. Okay, this hollandaise is looking pretty good. I'm going to drop a couple of eggs into this simmering water to poach them. We're going to toast our English muffin.
So poaching eggs, you just crack an egg and put it in boiling water.
Well, sort of.
Sort of.
You know, there are those little fun little poachers that I'm sure you remember from seeing pictures or from your youth. I know I saw a little poaching apparatus when I was younger, and that had these little kind of cups, and my grandmother would put a little butter into those cups
They
and
never
drop
work
the
the
egg
way
in
that you
there,
think
and
they're going to.
and you still see that, and we do that from time to time. But I find that if we put egg into a simmering water that we've added either a little bit of salt or a little bit of lemon juice to help set the protein on the outside of the egg. And usually I'll put a little tiny bit of butter into that water because I want to season my water as I'm making that egg, or poaching that egg. So we...
how much water is it a good idea to use?
It's enough to cover.
Just enough to cover
Just
the
enough
egg?
to cover the eggs.
Okay.
And if you look at this water, you'll see that these eggs are set well into this water. And you see there those little eggs down in there poaching
Yeah.
away? And you kind of get to see them, and they look nice, and they're floating around, and we can finish up our sauce. And I think our muffin is ready. Let's plate up one of these little dishes.
We're all for that, Michael.
Okay, put an English muffin down.
No, you didn't make those English muffins, did you? Not from scratch?
No, you know, these are the English muffins from... Emily, would you hand me a fork over there, please?
Sure.
These are the English muffins from an old family in Kansas City, Wolferman's. They used to make, used to have a bakery, and I think they've sold their bakery to, or at least the recipe for it, for the English muffin to Sara Lee. All right, now we're turning this hollandaise into a sweet basil pesto hollandaise.
And what you just added was the basil
I added a
pesto.
sweet basil pesto, right. Thanks, Stacy.
You're so welcome.
Okay, hollandaise. We're fortunate to have some pretty good looking tomatoes. And so what I'm going to do is a nice, thick, generous slice of tomato. Put that right on top of there. I always like to season kind of as we go. That's a little bit of kosher salt, a little freshly cracked peppercorn, and we're going to put our eggs right on top of that.
Now, is this something that you serve at your restaurant? Or
It is.
Is it?
Yes, it is. It's an amazingly popular dish.
Right.
And especially in the summertime when we have what we call killer tomatoes.
Let's sit it right there on the cutting board, and that way
Okay.
we can get a good shot of that
Oh,
on
that
camera.
sounds great.
Perfect.
Okay, you guys. Does look great, doesn't it?
It looks
And then
wonderful.
Okay, so do you prepare this at your restaurant?
We do, Stacy. Every single day we have a couple of different Benedicts on the menu, but the tomato Benny is a very popular, sort of a vegetarian kind of, almost, you can't really say vegan, but a vegetarian option.
Right.
And so, if you just, you just love these colors on this
Yeah,
plate.
it's beautiful.
And the flavors are just awesome.
Looky there.
Get there.
Mmm,
How's
Beautiful.
looks delicious.
Should I set it right there?
that? Okay. I hear our pasta water boiling over there. So we're going to take a little bit of our sweet basil pesto. We're going to put some pasta down inside this pasta water. Cook this pasta. Give it a little bit of a stir. This pasta I had par cooked, which is a way that restaurateurs are able to take pasta that takes approximately 10 minutes to prepare and have that pasta out to you inside of 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So we par cook it to a certain degree, then we chill it, and so that we can pull it back in. It cuts the cooking time. So you're able to get your dish inside 15, 20 minutes. So what I'll do now is just, we're warming this up. We've done the same thing with these little potatoes.
Now I noticed you're using red potatoes and not white. Do you have a specific reason why you do that?
Because Thane Palmberg, who is a farmer in DeSoto, Kansas, brought me red baby potatoes today, and that's why we're using those.
Okay.
Because those were harvested probably Saturday, just
So they're really fresh.
within 100 miles of us, and so they're really fresh and out of our soil. And so
Well, don't red potatoes also hold their shape?
they do hold their shape. They have a little different starch content than potatoes like russet potatoes, but there are other good shape holding potatoes. Fingerling potatoes hold their shape really well. Cobbler potatoes, those are all grown in this area. They hold their shape really well. And I like the idea that Thane just brought me those,
Right.
and I like his potatoes,
Yeah.
so
Well, what a
he grows a
sweetheart.
whole bunch of them.
That's
yeah.
right.
All right, so I think our pasta's done. We'll do a quick drain on that pasta. I put those little potatoes that are par cooked back into that pasta. We're going to leave a little bit of that water in that pasta so that we can add it to our sweet basil. And earlier, Stacy and I worked together to blanch some green beans. Stacy did the snapping of these green beans. I'm going to put these green beans back into that pasta to warm that up a little bit. Add some sweet basil pesto to this. This is a classic Genovese pasta. That's pasta with pesto, potatoes, and green beans. It's a Marcella Hazan basic recipe, and it just has such great flavor when it's in perfect proportion. It's probably the most delicious pasta you'll taste ever of all the pastas. And there are a lot of them out there.
It's a pretty bold statement.
It is a bold statement.
Okay, I'll trust you.
All right.
Those green beans that you and Stacy made look awfully green. How'd
Well,
you get them to do that?
I knew you were going to ask me that question.
Did you?
Well, because people are curious about things like that, and I think you have to remember that there's a balance in everything, right? So, what we did was we put these green beans into water that was boiling, and we added salt to that water because green vegetables, when you place them in water, emit kind of an acidic quality, and if you can't balance that acidic quality in the water, they'll turn to kind of a gray color.
Right. So
And-
you overcooked them.
Right. So, well, it's not really overcooking, Stacy. If you were to just take a couple of vegetables, the green beans, and you squeeze lemon juice over the top of them, or lettuce, or whatever, you would see how that acid reacts on that greenness. It turns it to kind of a grayness. And so, what we did was we sort of balanced that acidic nature. Let's plate this. We balanced that acidic nature with the alkaline of the salt, so that it kept the vegetables green. you guys.
So just as simple as adding some salt to the water.
It was just as simple as adding some salt to the water, and then Emily, you saw me put this into another bowl of ice water, and what I was trying to do there was to shock it to stop the cooking process because I didn't want it to cook any farther. And let's see, I need a little bit of the basil and the garnish. Oh, that one looks pretty good. And we had this fun tomato earlier. That looks kind of nice. And in case somebody is enticed to eat that, let's season that up. And I have a little bit of this basil oil, so we'll just drizzle a little bit of that. And what's a good pasta dish without a bit of Parmesan?
That's right.
So there's that.
Looks great.
Now, how many more dishes are you making?
Well, just a couple.
Okay, good.
Okay. Are you still hungry?
Yeah. I'm
Okay,
hungry.
great. Let's
Get her done here.
let's put another pan on. Would you grab me one of those saute pans over there, please? And we'll do another favorite dish of mine while she's doing that. Let's take some of these egg yolks. These are hard-boiled eggs.
Is this one okay?
That'd be great. That looks perfect.
Thanks.
It's just like what we use at the restaurant all the time. And we'll take some of these hard-boiled eggs, and we will put them on this little platter, because I know when I was young, we read a lot of Dr. Seuss books, and they talked about green eggs and ham. So what I'm going to do is kind of do my own little twist on that green eggs and ham, and we're going to do a little bit of deviled egg with a little bit of sweet basil pesto.
Okay. Now, is it okay if I turn the heat on your pan?
You know, I'm glad you reminded me of that. That'd be awesome, because
Okay.
we want that pan to be pretty hot. We're
Okay,
going to
good.
sear some lamb chops into it, so that'd be great. So I've mixed this with a little bit of butter. You can use a little mayonnaise to give it a kind of a creaminess. And then we're going to put this back into these little eggs.
So was this egg yolk?
Egg yolk,
butter,
basil. I better put a little bit of salt and pepper in here
kosher
too.
salt?
Kosher salt, a little bit of pepper. And now we're going to go right back into these eggs.
It's a little twist on the classic deviled egg.
Uh-huh. And I know you heard me say green eggs and ham.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're going to do...
More like green eggs and lamb?
No, that's a good idea, though. I like that. How fun is...
I
You
was
said
going
you're
there with
making
the
lamb chops.
See
so
how
it's
things can
bigger.
just kind of go like that? I mean, it's amazing when you start thinking about food and different variations. But what I brought with me was a little bit of diced prosciutto. And prosciutto's a ham. It's an air-cured ham from the Parma region of Italy. And so there's our green eggs and ham. And we still have a little bit of this tomato over here. So let's put a couple pieces of that down on this plate. It's starting to look like Italy on this table, don't you
I'm
think?
telling you.
The different colors of green, red, and white. All right, so there's another one. It's looking pretty good too. All right, now, is my saute pan hot?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. We'll do a coarse chop of these beautiful onions. These are onions that look like this. It's not a scallion on steroids. It's just a great summer green onion. Most people don't see those. And
And you can just buy those at the store?
well, you know what? I'll have to say that the people, and I'm not necessarily advocating shopping in any particular store, but the people at the hen house have somehow, Ball's Foods, have somehow associated themselves with some fabulous farmers who are bringing good local product into them.
Right.
So you can go and buy that kind of stuff at the hen house. You can buy tomatoes, you buy, I think I see peaches in the summertime.
Now, when
All
you're sauteing, you want a hot pan and like
I'm-
room temperature oil. Is that?
Well, I'm going to try to put a nice little caramelization on the outside of these onions. So what I'm doing is I put that oil into that hot pan. It got hot immediately.
Right.
I'm not seasoning the onions yet because I don't want the seasonings in salt and pepper, and most other seasonings are dry, and that pulls moisture from those onions, and it causes them to stew. I want them to be caramelized. I want them to kind of, what we might think of as be slightly burning on the outside. And then I have some beautiful sweet corn. Okay. And sweet corn and onions, sweet onions are so wonderful together in this saute. I'm going to put a little bit of garlic into this. We're going to add some of our sweet basil pesto. All these things come together in the late summer and early fall in a very fresh format. Sweet corn is available year-round, but it's best in our area during that late summer, like August-ish,
Right.
when you can go out and get it and cook it 3 hours off the stock. Try that sometime. It's really fabulous. And then I'm going to just put a little bit of whole butter in right at the last minute to give a little bit of flavor. And we'll plate up this as a starting plate. Well, let's put some of these fun pine nuts in here too. That'll give us a fun little crunch.
Now, does cooking pine nuts change the flavor at all?
Always, yes it does. Always you should, when you're using nuts of any format, pine nuts, walnuts, hazelnuts, all those nuts,
Right.
to freshen up or to enliven their oils, you need to cook them. So whether you do it on top of the stove on a pan or you put it into an oven, it will bring out that beautiful oil that's naturally present in that nut.
Right.
Emily, if you'll hand me those lamb chops. Oh, those look great. We're going to go right on top of that cooking pan here where we've done this.
Just salt and pepper.
Just, you know what? These are really good little New Zealand lamb chops, and I really just want that flavor to come through. Just good salt and pepper.
Right.
Good food. Okay? This looks fabulous. Let's plate a little bit of this out. Oh, looks like I have enough
Smells
for two.
wonderful. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
That's good. I'm glad of that.
Okay, let's empty this pan out.
I just grab you another one.
Okay.
Let me do that.
It's a full-service kitchen. We have more than one saute pan around here.
Well,
Is this one big enough, you think?
a little bit larger.
This one?
Fabulous. Ooh, I like that kind
You
too.
like it?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Has a nice heavy feel to it and a good thick bottom. All right.
All right, make that pan hot, right?
Yes, we're going to make that pan hot, and then we're going to sear those lamb chops. How do you like your lamb?
How do I like my lamb? I don't know. I'm not a big lamb eater.
Oh.
Medium rare, please.
Medium rare. Okay.
Listen to her.
Yeah,
Can you
she's
eat lamb medium rare? I didn't even know.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, you know, little lamb rib chops like this they don't really have much fat in them. So generally speaking, when I feel about steaks and red meat like this, the more fat that's inside the steak, the longer I'll take the steak to be cooked. So, for instance, I like my ribeye steak about medium-ish to medium well because it allows the fat to melt inside the steak.
Right.
Since this is a very lean, this little tenderloin here is very lean on this lamb, it's perfect at medium rare.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, guess I'll be eating it. No, I'm sure it'll be great.
Okay, we'll put a little bit of oil in there, and we're going to put these lamb chops in there. All right, and I think that's all we're doing today,
Wow.
right?
Well, can I ask you a couple of questions?
Please.
I understand that you're an apprentice supervising chef.
I am.
So that means you supervise culinary students that are in the program here at the college.
I do.
How does that work? How do you do that?
Well, we the culinary part of going to culinary school, actual working in the field, is better accomplished by the school sending these students out to chefs, restaurateurs who are willing to take the time and energy to specifically train them on slicing techniques, dicing techniques. They get the basic instruction at school, but when you're in class only an hour or so every couple of days, you don't really see as much as when you're there 40 hours a week doing the same thing over and over again. So one of the things that does for them is to really make them better. What we do at the Classic Cup, we're a small independent restaurant, and over the years, I've been there 26 years, and I've never wanted my job to become static. And so we do 14 different specials every day. We have 40 items on our lunch menu, 42 items on the dinner menu. We serve breakfast. We have breakfast specials. We change the menu quarterly, if not more. So it keeps us all interested in what we're doing. And for an apprentice, I think seeing so much in a variety really helps them learn, and it keeps them excited about it.
And it gives them a real feel for a professional kitchen and restaurant and the taste.
Absolutely. And so it works by, we pay them what I think is a livable wage. It may not be as competitive as some of the or it may not be as equal to some people who have had more experience and coming in. And we're not just training line cooks; we're training chefs. So as the day goes by and they're talking to us about products and different different textures in combination and different flavors in combination, basil ice creams and chilled pear granitas on top of pan-seared fish. Those interesting wild combinations that they see on television now in this kind of new, fun, chemical kind of concept of cooking. So it's fun for them to be able to see that, and it's fun for us because in teaching, you get to feel like you're learning again. It's sort of the whole part of it again. So I really like the apprentice program, and I've been very fortunate to have had some really awesome apprentices come from the Johnson County Community College.
Oh, we love to hear that.
Yeah, it seems like it's a really good program, and it seems like it's just getting better as the years go by, and I think it's probably becoming larger or bigger, the program is. And I don't know, I'm seeing some very skillful people coming to me from this program.
That's wonderful.
And I hope I'm training people that are even better when they leave.
Oh, no, I'm sure you're doing a good
Because
job.
several of our staff have gone to far, far away places, and it kind of reflects on, I feel it reflects on me and the Classic Cup, that they write to us as on their resume, and then they call me and they say, can the guy cook? And I say, sure. So I feel confident that I can do that. All right. These look pretty good.
I want to remind people out there that if you're interested in seeing Michael Turner's recipes that he's making today, and he has done a great variety for us, you can log on to the college website. That's www.jccc.edu. Search for culinary. It'll take you to the hospitality management culinary website, and recipes for all of our cooking segments will be online. You can also watch this program online at video.jccc.edu 24/7. You can go on anytime and watch it online. And we'll also have DVDs available at some point, so look for that also on the website.
Okay, guys. This all looks so good. The flavors look so awesome. And I know what you're thinking, and you're right. I am going to put a little more pesto on each one of these little lamb chops because you're going to love this combination. You'll never want to pick up mint again.
Beautiful.
All right,
Oh
there
my
you go.
gosh. Do we even have room over here?
Yeah. Talk about smell-o-vision.
know.
I wish we did
Yeah.
have smell-o-vision now. This looks wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me out here today.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you
Turner.
very much
Nice.
for coming.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Cooking with Class.